Today, Republicans revealed that their midterm election strategy is to try to roll back those gains, and they hope nobody notices. Joining me now is D.C. Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton and Pennsylvania Governor Ed Rendell. Thanks to you both for being here.
Of course, Reverend.
Congresswoman, in 50 years after the Great Society, do Republicans seriously think they can win over votes with this new manifesto attacking the safety net?
Well, if you're going to call it a manifesto, you ought to at least have more than warmed over small government or Republican ideas. You know, Reverend, they think they've branded us the tax and spend party. They now recognize, though, these thinkers from the Republican Party, that they are, in the minds of the American people, the cut and gut party, and that doesn't appeal to the middle class. So they're trying to come up with their own version of what the American people have embraced for 50 years. And the one you just talked about, lowering the minimum wage for the long-term unemployed, is the most pitiful, because that's a stereotype of who the long-term unemployed are. If you want to help that stereotype, which is poor people which don't have skills, then they need training. But today's long-term unemployment are more likely to be the middle-class people who are victims of the Great Recession of 2008 and can't get back to work.
You know, Governor, I don't get it. I had to do a double take. In a midterm election year, they want to lower the minimum wage? I mean, lower it? Explain to me not only the economic rationale, but the political rationale of that.
Well, what they're trying to do, Rev, you know, they always accuse the president of class warfare. Well, this is a form of class warfare. They want to set the middle class against the poorest Americans. And they want to convince the middle class that the poorest Americans are draining off all opportunity because they don't want to work. Well, they don't bother to tell people. We haven't had able-bodied males on welfare for over a decade now. There is no welfare for able-bodied males. There's no welfare programs. And as far as food stamps, the Congresswoman made a great point. Food stamps used to be, when it first started, the province of the very poor. But now, there are middle-class families on food stamps. In Pennsylvania, Rev, there are 1.4 million people on food stamps. That's almost 1 out of every 9 Pennsylvanians. That includes a lot of middle-class families that used to be employed in good manufacturing jobs. Unemployment compensation relief, extending it. That's an extension not for the poor or the welfare class. That's an extension for people who worked and who are desperately trying to find jobs. So this won't work. It's a wrong-headed policy, but it's also immoral trying to set the middle class against the poorest Americans.
You know,
Congresswoman, today's new GOP manifesto makes some really bizarre claims. It says things about the core safety net programs. Let me quote it. It says Social Security and Medicare have crowded out the traditional incentive to raise children as a protection against poverty in old age. So now Republicans are attacking the safety net because it means you don't have to rely on your kids to support you in your old age. I mean, what voters are going to be attracted to that pitch, Congresswoman?
Yeah, if this is supposed to attract the middle class, I have yet to hear an idea that would send the middle class running in their direction. All they're doing is attacking our programs. Now, the only good news here is this is another case of an open break with the Tea Party. Just as the establishment in trying to run somehow less crazy Republicans have broken with the Tea Party, these people they openly say, we can't just say no. They even criticize Mitt Romney because they say he kept talking about small business, and guess what? Most Americans don't own businesses, but they don't come up with concrete ideas that are new, that are fresh. They've taken things from various senators, they give them credit, no fresh ideas themselves, because they really don't want to do anything for the middle class. They are still sailing on the same boat they were on before, and nobody's going to get on that boat with them, Reverend.
You know, in today's New York Times, Governor, there was a report on internal Democratic research about the midterm elections. That research found, quote, Democratic candidates stand a better chance when they portray Republicans as uncaring toward working-class Americans while they continue to back policies favoring the wealthy and corporate America. Now, Republicans are making it mighty easy for Democrats to portray them like that with this, Governor.
Yeah, absolutely. And the vote on unemployment, extension of unemployment compensation benefits is a perfect example. That's a middle-class program that's targeted to middle-class workers who are working hard and are now looking for jobs. And the Republicans want to don't want to extend. They blocked it from coming into law. So what does the average middle-class person think? Well, the people who are on unemployment comp, they're furious. But everyone knows someone who worked hard but now is on unemployment compensation because they can't find a job. They're furious. It's a strategy that's, I said at the beginning of the year that it looked like a tough year for Democrats, and the only one who could save it from being a tough year for Democrats is Republicans, and they're doing it. Now, we've got to get out there and continue to talk unabashedly about the things we believe in. You can have a strong, fair safety net and make progress.
You know, they could come
and
with
talk about the results, because here's what researchers at Columbia University found out about the impact of LBJ's One Poverty, part of his Great Society initiatives. Quote, in 1967, the poverty rate factoring in safety net programs stood at 26%. In 2012, that poverty rate has dropped down to 16%. Yes, it's way too high, but it still shows these critical programs work, and yet Republicans want to roll them back, Governor.
I agree. Eleanor, you were about to say something?
Yeah, to give an example of where they could beat us, instead of an absurd proposal like lowering the minimum wage for long-term unemployed people, which is the heart of the middle class, I got a bill that says, and they like tax credits usually, give employers $5,000 against their payroll tax if they employ a long-term unemployed person. That's far more practical and realistic. Even they couldn't get this. If they controlled the House and the Senate, they couldn't get this proposal, the one to lower the minimum wage. So why don't we talk about something of the kind that even they have done? They have tax credits in their health care bill. Let's talk about things that Republicans and Democrats can do together, for goodness sakes.
And, Rev, a perfect example of that
would help all Americans, for goodness sake.
Perfect example of that is infrastructure, which creates the best-paying middle-class jobs that pay $60,000, $70,000 a year. Why won't they fund an infrastructure program for this country?
That's the best example.
And
best example.
And put America back to work. Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton and Governor Rendell, I'm going to have to leave it there. Thank you for your time tonight.
My pleasure, Reverend.